Okay, perfect. So Thomas, as you were saying, different sounds in English. Tell me. Which ones are difficult there?
It's because when you change from, let's take a soft S for example, like
Hmm.
those. It's you have two really difficult sounds follow from one to another. So
Hmm.
there's the TH sound, and then you also have the S sound. But the S is pronounced in many different ways. You have the hard S, you have a very soft, in those, for example, it's a very soft S. So, so if you say so, it's quite a hard S. So it's really not, especially in combination with whose, for example. I mean,
Hmm.
that's really, mind blowing. Um, and so you have three different, because O being a U, if essentially, so
Hmm.
whose. So you have three different sounds that, in terms of spelling, don't make any sense whatsoever. Um, you know, I
I
mean,
so agree with that.
how do you explain that to a poor, poor foreigner, German, Spanish, French, Italian, Iranian, whatever, and Japanese even. I mean, God, how on earth do you do it? It's
Do you know what my response is? Is some things don't have explanations. That's just how it is. So I wrote down the TH,
I
the S.
couldn't
Mhm.
I couldn't even imagine the tongue position. That the sound is pretty. So I learned. My sister, who went to the English, college. I mean, English course of the college at that time, and she showed me the tongue position. So and then I practiced. I couldn't imagine
Perfect.
the tongue position actually.
It is. It happened to me in Spanish too. I promise. They're saying like the D sound isn't so strong. It's a very D, and your tongue actually goes to the top part of behind your teeth and stuff. And I was like, oh, now I can make this sound. So I totally get it. Actually had a friend who I told about the course I did to teach English, and he did it, and he said, well, how stupid is this? All these tongue positions. And I was like, it's absolutely necessary. So yeah, it's quite important. I absolutely agree with it. I'm taking notes of these different sounds because I didn't even realize that these are like super difficult. Obviously, I
yeah, but if
understand that
if you take the word real, and I realize, well, it depends where you are, doesn't it? A Z or an
it
S?
does.
Yes, I was just thinking that depends on there's two different spellings for realize, isn't there? One with a Z and one with an S. Yes, and of course, once you start, it's also because German is very much 90% of the words. If you pronounce them, you can write them. And that is just simply, and the S is a really good example, I think.
It's the same in Spanish. They write everything exactly like if you understand the sounds in the alphabet, then you can read this word perfectly. And it's like, but in my alphabet, the letters have different sounds. So even though I technically know what sound this makes in your Spanish alphabet, it doesn't come out that way from my mouth. So yeah, it is difficult. It's absolutely difficult. I've heard that there's called Laos, in which people are called Hmong. And I had a lot of Hmong in Wisconsin growing up. And they said basically if you're not a native speaker, you can never become native because there's sounds, literal sounds in which mean words. And if you don't recognize these sounds or you can't pronounce the sounds exactly perfectly, it's a different word. So
But the good news about Laos, if I remember right, they speak French. So
really?
yeah,
Okay.
it was. I might be wrong, but I think Laos was a French colony.
I, never learned the history of Laos, so I can't. I don't have any input.
I have to look it up, but I think that's right.
Please do. Well, good. Well, while you're looking that up, if you think of any other sounds, Thomas, just go ahead, type them in the chat box. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and share this wonderful presentation I made. That took me a lot longer than I expected, but that was fine. I think it is put together well enough that we can understand. So now we can see this. So the many sounds of S in English. All right, so what I think we might do is, Ken, I might have you read this first paragraph, just kind of introducing us to the topic, okay?
Okay. The S in English is very special as it has many different sounds. Normally, wait a moment. Normally, a consonant has one sound. A consonant has one sound, possibly two. Vowels have at least two, and even more depending on the word accent of the speaker.
Exactly, and that's exactly what Thomas was saying too, with the O sounding like a U, etc., and also the accent of the person. So yes, many things affect all of this in English. So any questions so far?
There's some really great examples even in here, isn't there, if you think about it? Vowels. The S there is almost silent, but not. Yeah. Speaker, it's quite a hard S. Special, again, a very hard S. Sounds is sort of in between. It's not soft, it's not hard. Consonant
Really,
is...
Yeah, continue, sorry.
It's quite hard, isn't it?
Yeah, consonant. To me, the
It's
consonant
almost a C, isn't it?
special.
Yeah.
Sounds. These are all, to me, have the same vowels, z sound. Word yeah, and the double C in accent is the same as special, for example.
Yeah,
And
accent.
speaker is also the same.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, and I didn't even realize this when I was teaching one day and this came up and it said the different sounds of S, and I was like, "Are you crazy?" And then, then they were right, right? And then I looked at the words and I was like, "What is this?" So absolutely. So it is quite crazy here. So let's take a look here. All right. So the first and most common S you find in the word snake, and this is basically speaker, sounds, consonant, all of these. So let's think of other words.
Snore.
That's a good word, Thomas. Thanks for good vocabulary today. Can you demonstrate or explain what snore means?
No. But James could tell you a tale about it. So we do have a spare sofa, which I frequently use, and James sometimes when he gets pissed off.
Well, that happens. Yeah, that happens. So snore is something you do when you're sleeping, and you tend to make noise without knowing it. So
yes,
that's a perfect example. And
yes,
depending on the person.
Apart from, I think mine is a bit louder. So
I'm not even going to comment on that topic. So, think of the word snow as we're almost in December. Snow, snore, and snow. Ken, can you think of any other words?
Snail.
Okay, good. Any other words?
Snail. Smell.
Smell. I would definitely say that. I think a lot of the S sounds that we have at the beginning of words are going to be this sound. It's at the end of the word has changed. And actually, Ken, when you wrote before, TH sound is fine. And then languages is a different sound here. And that's because it's at the end. So let's take a look at some of these examples that I do have. Some more. Whoops. I don't think I want to show all of this. Okay, so some bikes. Okay, so like I said at the beginning, it's pretty simple. And then bikes. Sorry, state, once, scratch, snap, and sound. The vocabulary.
Mhm.
And do you understand all of these words?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Can you explain the word scratch, as that's not a very common word, I don't think.
In hip hop, but originally is the action of scratch.
There, that was scratch.
That is definitely.
But there's also another meaning, of course. From scratch means from the beginning.
Right.
Very good, Thomas. Yeah, from scratch is from the
Not
beginning.
just a pretty face.
Oh, I didn't know you were just a pretty face. I knew there was more there to it. I think, what about snap? Snap is sometimes, and there's a double meaning here, Thomas.
Well, I was thinking of snap election. A snap election is when an election suddenly happens, rather than was planned. So, for example, if a prime minister resigns, then you might have a snap election. So, obviously, to snap, but I was thinking that's maybe another meaning that not everybody knows.
Exactly. Well, good. And I was also thinking of another one, except, apart from the one where you snap your fingers, it's also to snap, which means to get angry, basically.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
To snap, to get angry. So you can say, he snapped at me, for example. He yelled at me. So flipped out, for example, is another one.
And snappy, of course, but I can't think. I can't. That exists, doesn't it? What does snappy mean?
It's an adjective for to snap, basically, and what it means is she's snappy today. She's very quick to respond.
Irritable, or irritable, isn't it?
No. Yep. Moody.
Yeah.
Basically, when someone snaps, if someone is snappy, they snap at you a lot, and so they always have something to say. They're irritable. They're angry.
Yeah.
Happy people. They are not what we want. Okay.
Yes, irritable. Yeah. Short-tempered, hot-tempered, quick-tempered, peevish. Now that's a good word. Crabbed, crabby, crotchety. That's probably one you haven't heard, Rebecca. Have you?
I actually have.
Yeah.
Don't use it.
Cantankerous, impatient, grumpy, huffy, brusque, ill-tempered, bad-tempered, ill-natured, ill-humored, touchy, volatile, testy. I hadn't, not in that context. Tetchy, yes. Snarling, waspish. Now there's a great one with a great S in it as well. Wasp, waspish. Prickly, crusty, okay. Peppery, never heard that in context of that. Bilious, liverish, dyspeptic, never heard that one. Splenetic, never heard that one. And choleric, yeah, I've heard that one. So there we go, it's got many meanings. Snappy.
There you go, Mr. Dictionary today, Thomas. Great adjective.
Well, I look it up, so it's not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know. I wouldn't have thought of as nearly as many adjectives. I do agree with some of those others. Like the peppery one is kind of like, I don't think I'd use that for a person, but probably food or their hair color. You can say something like that when it's gray and black or gray and white.
Yeah.
Well, I've moved down to explain a little bit more about this. So Ken, or I mean Thomas, I'm not trying to ignore you. If you want to read, you're more than welcome to.
It's fine.
Ken, why don't you give us the honor of listening to your voice and you can read for us, okay?
Okay. Sometimes these sounds are at the beginning of the word, as we can see above. Other times, the S sound is at the end of the word. after the voiceless sounds are up. I don't know the phonetic sign. P,
These
T,
are
P.
the pronunciation. P,
Okay.
T, B.
P, T, B. Voiceless
Good.
sounds are words that have letters in which we don't pronounce when adding an ending. Likes. I am almost saying the K sound, but in the end, I don't voiceless. Likes. Like.
It's to explain what voiceless means because it's used a lot. And so when I say likes, like, I'm not saying like, as it, if it's in without the S, like. It's a very strong K sound. Now, when I add the S in this case, likes, he's saying the K, and that's what they're talking about here.
Like,
Sense.
likes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Voice. My Adam's apple doesn't vibrate, which means voiceless.
I don't have one of those.
Yes.
I don't have to worry about
Very
that.
true.
Didn't realize that was a repercussion or a consequence of saying words. Okay. Good to know. Well, I think we're all learning a lot today. So it's kind of crazy when you think about it because in my entire life in this language, and then all of a sudden you see these tiny little things like likes, try to pronounce it like this is whoa, too many sounds there. So likes, and this is exactly what they're talking about. So the voiceless sounds, the word. Do you have any comments on this part?
So when it's followed by an S, like a PS or TS or whatever, that's when it's a voiceless sound. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, let me go above and see if I do have an example. S to snaps, snap.
Mm-hmm. PS.
Snap. Snaps. Oh, I actually said the P there.
Mm-hmm.
T, want, wants.
Mm-hmm.
Different here. This would also be the same. State, states, states. Bikes, just like likes. Sound. This actually, I think, would also follow. Sound, sounds. So. Times. The M, you absolutely say the M times, so that doesn't work. Just wanted to try it. So good. Yeah, and so this is just about kind of discovering a little bit more and making your life easier when pronouncing these words. So I think this is the end of the first. No, we also find the type of S sound in the present simple or for plural words, and that's why in these example with snaps, wants, the present simple, okay, plural, things like that. Okay, so I just gave some examples and then explained those. All right, so if you have any questions. Number 2, the first one is pretty simple, as in all grammar things. I think the first one is relatively the most simple one, just so that people kind of understand what's going on, what you're talking about. So in the second sound of the S, it says another way we can pronounce the S sound in English is the same way as in the word. All right, so this is like a Z or Z, depending on which English you speak. Sound. So,
The Queen's English.
All right. As I don't have a king or queen, or I have an idiot for a president. So
nobody's going to disagree with you. Well, I don't know. I'm certainly not going to disagree with you on that one.
No one disagrees with me on that one. Otherwise, I don't know if I want them in class. No, just kidding. As long as there's no debate, we're okay. So this one is, you can make this sound by thinking of a bee, you know, that little black and yellow bug that
Z.
stings people. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes a sound z, z, z.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is the sound that we're going to take a look at. All right, so again, what other words can you think of that make this sound? Jean.
I can't think of any. Z.
Quiz, for example. Z, what
Is.
am I doing? I'm like,
Quiz. That's not
quiz actually ends with a Z, so that doesn't
Yeah, I was
help
gonna. Yeah,
actually.
that doesn't. Is
Quiz is a good
his
example.
his
In the word easy. Well, there's also the
Z. Easy
ease. Mm-hmm.
peasy.
Do you know that rhyme?
Easy peasy sneezy.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Lemon
Ken, did we
squeezy.
talk about that? Good.
Yes.
Okay. Ken, can you think of any examples? It's difficult.
Think of like plural S and pronounce Z sound. You mean?
What words that end with an S,
Okay, that sounds.
but
Yeah, Beatles.
agree with that.
Yes.
Beatles.
I think Z. Yeah, Z. Beatles.
Well, any plural, I suppose, but that's a bit boring, isn't it? Shells, cartels.
Let's
But that's
to
not
me sound like the first one. Beatles.
Beatles.
Tells.
Beatles. Towels.
Plural.
Beatles.
Let's see if we can. For example, here are some examples. Happens, goes, runs, spins, dances, cabs. Do you see the difference?
And this is, if you look at dances, it's really interesting because in essence, if you could, I mean, you wouldn't pronounce it any different if it was spelled with an S, would you? If it was DANS.
The C.
Yeah. Or would it be dances? It would still be dances.
No, you're right. The and the S have the same sound sometimes, and I don't know why.
So
that's another class. Writing that down.
Spelling class, yeah.
Ooh, spelling. That's hard.
Goes, runs, spins, yeah, cabs.
Say it, Thomas. I'm still hearing the S sound. Happens, goes, runs, spins.
Yeah, I hear it when you say it as well.
How about the easy? It sounds like S, Z, but spell S.
Easy.
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 That
easy.
does. Isn't it crazy? Ken, why don't you go ahead and read these words for us?
Okay, here are some more. Happens, goes, runs, spins, dances, cabs, etc.
Thomas, don't you love his American accent that when he reads?
I say nothing. I think it's your influence, Becky. but you do live in the States, don't you, Ken?
Oh yeah.
He did.
And I learned British accent by BBC podcast.
You see, I can hear it now. Yes. You should have gone to Britain, of course. Where did you go in the US?
Maybe 5 years ago or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but
he went to Georgia.
Georgia. Okay.
Yeah, Georgia. Yes. Where? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I
So,
don't know.
So pretty southern. I mean, there's a pretty
the natural
thick accent.
Young, like yeah, yes, that's sound.
So you've actually done really well. I mean, given that you were.
Say it, Thomas.
No. mean, Wisconsin, for example, has a lovely accent. I mean, this is what I was trying to describe to. I saw a potentially new client yesterday, I think it was, and I was saying in terms of accents. I mean, there are hundreds of different accents, literally hundreds of different English accents. From Scottish through this Australian, Queensland. It's again different in Melbourne, Adelaide. You have loads of different ones in the US, loads of different ones within the UK. Then you've got Canada again, another one, and you've got an Indian English accent. And I mean, the amount of differences is really, I mean, we have some here as well, but it's phenomenal, really.
It is. And, I have people asking, what's the correct one? There is no correct one. It just depends on how and when you're going to use it, what vocabulary you need. Is it business? Is it vocabulary for daily life,
It's also about, language is about communication, isn't it, basically? And so obviously, I mean, we have one teacher who I do admit has a rather strong Scottish accent. I do understand him, but, I have to listen carefully. It is really about obviously speaking as clearly as you can when you learn a language, so that, it's a bit more generic, the accent, I think, rather than slanting towards a heavy Scottish accent, for example, or a very deep South accent in the USA. So you try to kind of stay in the middle, don't you, really?
Well, and my accent has really become more neutral over the years since I do have to teach. And, I've learned how to pronounce things a little bit more clearly.
Yes, enunciate clearly.
I've enunciated in English in Wisconsin one time, and someone's like, why are you talking funny? And I'm like, okay, kid.
That didn't work. Let's try something else.
Internet instead of internet, and he freaked out on me. So I was like, all right, done talking to you now. So, but it's just like I said, it just depends, and it is difficult. There's a whole bunch of different Spanish accents as well, and some are difficult for me, others are easy, and the Scottish accent in English is super difficult for me. I don't know if it's super strong or more neutral.
I couldn't do it.
I completely agree. So, and sometimes the English accent, the other day I was discussing with two English women about a bidet, and they're like, a bidet, it's a B-day. And I was like, a B-day is your birthday abbreviated. So, language too, and, it's crazy. So, and actually, Ken and I were talking about bidets.
Were you?
You should watch the beginning of last class.
Is that what you do when I'm not there, Ken? You talk about bidets.
I don't even remember why it came up. Interesting conversation. So, speaking of interesting conversations, let's continue with the sounds. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Ken, do you want to read this one too? And these are all sounds. Whenever they're in these little slash marks, these are the sounds. Okay?
Okay. This sound happens after voiced sounds such as b, b, t, l, v, or also after vowel sounds such as a, e, o, u, ye. For example.
These are just the letters.
Okay. These sounds are also found in the present simple tense and in plural forms.
So yeah, those good job with the sounds of these letters here. That was very good. And then after vowel sounds, as we have here, including the Y and the IE. So good. And let's go down a little bit here and see. Oh no, that's the third one. So let's analyze. That is with a Z. I wonder why analyze. Maybe what Americans did when we were changing the British English sound, because that's analyze. Because in British English, you use an S, analyze. Oops.
Analyze.
And in my English, I would use a Z. And it happens as you mentioned earlier. And what I'm thinking is we're trying to not complicate things so much. We're actually using a Z instead of an S. Interesting. Well, the other ones here, you know, as Ken read, all of these sounds, these are voiced sounds because we still pronounce them.
Right.
Have an S at the end, like happens, spins. Well, the C in dances isn't here, but cabs, for example. Times I added in the first one, and that I still pronounce. So it's a voiced sound. So is it clear what a voiced and unvoiced sound is?
Yeah.
Examples. Okay.
It's clear.
Perfect. That's important. All right, good. Well, let's go to this last one. Any guesses on what the third sound is? No?
Sorry, I had to
All right.
just briefly read a message. I know it's very rude when you're in class, but
Well, you are a boss. Yes, I
I know, and it was about work, so it wasn't. Otherwise, I would have ignored it.
I'm not too concerned. I'm sure Ken isn't easy. So this is the last sound. It's is. And it kind of sounds like IZ. It depends. You know, it depends on who's saying it. So the third way that we can say the S sound is, such as changes, is. So to me, it's like an IZ sound. Changes. But it depends.
But what about does and things like that? Because that's different
Does
again, isn't it? Yeah.
in the second
Does.
one.
Yeah.
Vowel.
Yeah.
This one here. Where's goes? Goes, does.
Goes, does, yeah.
Good. What I have here is a little bit more challenging. So I'm just going to move these down. In this form, the S will come after the sibilant sounds. So I'm sorry, sibilant sounds. That was a new word for me when I was doing this.
Sibilant.
And these.
Never heard of it.
Okay, thank you. At least I'm not the only one. This is the phonetic alphabet. And I knew, for example, I knew this sound, for example, is j, like changes, if I'm correct. And so what I have here is the phonetic sounds, okay? And I'm just going to read these because I think it might be easier, unless Thomas wants to take this challenge.
Miss, kiss, buzz, spritz, wash, flash, bridge, fridge, change, judge, watch, match.
Good. So basically these in blue here, if you can see these are the sounds of this app. That one's pretty easy. Buzz is pretty easy. But when we get to these other last four symbols here, it doesn't really make sense unless you know the phonetic alphabet.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, there's an international, there's an American one. So you do have to be careful. But as far as I'm concerned, these
so
are the ones
if you learn these, you can pretty much speak any language, yeah?
Isn't that what the Pope does, Thomas?
What reads them phonetically?
But I've heard that he does that. And in order to speak to people in different countries, he actually reads in the phonetics of the language. 1,000 different languages.
Yes, of course. He does have to announce things in many different languages.
So this is what I wanted to mention. I knew this is going to be difficult because when you see this, you don't think of the sh sound. No. Same here, the j.
Flash.
Change.
Change. Judge.
Yeah. So that's what these mean. Okay, this is the phonetic language, which I thought was interesting as well. And so if we go back up here, no, that's basically it. So other words in which could fall into any of those categories would be bridges, boxes, fixes, etc. Is. All right, that's the ending here. And now this one. So this, I'm sorry. Any last comments with this? I know this one's a lot. It's very confusing. It's just a matter of understanding what you have to focus on. You know, these sounds here.
Mm-hmm. The phonetics, yeah. Miss, kiss,
Exactly.
buzz, zzz, spritz. But you
Actually,
see, buzz
spritz.
and
Mhm.
is different
Yes.
from buzz, isn't it?
Ooh.
Spritz,
Ooh.
buzz.
I just fixed it. Then you think of another word that you, for example, whiz.
Whiz. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whiz is good. Yeah.
Whiz is someone who's very intelligent, right?
Ken is such a whiz kid.
Did you know spritz? I wanted to use spritz as vocabulary too. Spritz.
Mm-hmm.
Spritz means no idea.
Spritz.
He can, but normally he's typing and I can hear him like look up the word and he didn't do that today. So yeah.
Splash.
Similar, it's just spray something lightly. So a little spritz. Maybe when you put perfume
splash.
on, well, not here in Spain, they splash it on here. But spritz is
Splash,
to spray something on lightly.
You just spritz it sort of.
Exactly. Yeah, I had to look it up too because I knew obviously the word and I've used it in my life at some point, but I didn't know exactly. So spritz is to spray something very lightly, and the rest I think are very easy to understand. Okay. Yeah. So good. So now the challenge comes on.
And we won't judge you.
No. So now we have to say 1, 2, or 3 basically. So this is a game. You see who wins. See which sound, which category these words fall into. So I'm trying to think. Should I should I read these, or what do you, or should we say what we think first? How would we like to do this?
I think Ken can read these. They're not too difficult, are they?
And all words?
Yeah.
We'll do one by one at first because they're all different sounds. It's a mix.
Okay. Glasses.
Good. So 1, 2, or 3.
One. Sorry, I got confused here. What's one?
One is the normal S sound.
One normal
sound, the Z sound, and 3 is the is sound.
3 is
regular S.
I think 3.
3. Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to agree as well. And 3 is yes, and I agree with that. What about the next word, please, Ken?
Houses.
1.
Houses is C. Oh, difficult. Glasses, houses. Sounds like 3, but I'm not sure.
I'm going to say 3 as well because it ends with the S, and that was with the miss and kiss sounds. We have to use the is, houses.
Yeah, you're right. It is this.
Isn't this crazy analyzing like this language? First or second or third or fifth language, it doesn't matter, but it's a challenge. What about the next one, Ken?
Sources.
Any ideas? Sauces.
3 again.
I go with 3 again as well.
Yeah, this one we agree on.
Yeah, in this one, the C sounds like an S anyway. So good. What about the next word?
Opportunities.
Any idea?
Sorry, 2, I think.
Yeah, I think 2.
It would make it you'd have to pronounce it more with a Z. I would almost say the first is a plural. However, one did say after vowels and stuff. Opportunities. I look at it more like S, like a normal S sound. So that one could be debatable.
Opportunities.
We'll say 1.5.
1.5.
In
Oh,
between.
brilliant. We both score, Ken. Apart from
Ken,
that,
what about the next?
Becky
Okay.
gets full point.
Well, it depends on the accent, the speaker, and things, Thomas. So I'm not going to say I'm right, but Ken, please read the next word so we can have another discussion.
Pigs.
Pigs.
One. S.
Say one, pigs. Pigs.
It's another 1.5, isn't it, really?
Kinda, because the G you actually say, so it's more of a voiced sound.
You do, yeah, it is a voice sound, yeah.
Pigs.
Mm-hmm.
You could. 1.5. Okay, next word.
Tissues.
To me is relatively clear that it's one. Tissues.
Tissues. Yeah.
Is it one? Not.
Tissues. I would have
I
almost
would
gone
say
for.
it's
Oh my
one.
gosh. Oh my gosh. I pronounce Z probably.
Yeah, okay.
Tissues.
It's a tricky one. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Say it follows rule number 1 of being plural, but we found problems, so that's fine. So tissues. What about the next one?
Clips.
One.
Yes, I actually would say one. However, clips. Let me just double check. Yes, this is one because it's one of these. Okay. Right, good. Yeah, clips. Good. Next.
I don't know the exact pronunciation. Savory. Savory. Okay. Savory.
Okay, so we're all basically looking at another word, and that to me is clearly number 1.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Oh yes, the next one. Let's talk about that.
Closets.
2 S's here.
Closets.
Closet.
Yeah.
Closets.
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 In the main word, closet, if it is
1 and
not
2.
plural. Exactly. This is part 2 in the middle, and then the last one would make it the plural, and that is to me the normal S sound as in number 1.
And 1. Yeah. So it's 2 and 1 basically.
Exactly. It's funny because you said 2 and 1. It literally is 2 and 1. 2 things in one word. But it's also number 2 here and 1 here.
And now,
Ken,
she's getting really nasty in the next word.
Why don't you go ahead and read that, Ken, please?
Businesses.
This should have been the last one. Businesses. Biz. This would be 2, I'm sure. Business.
It's 1, 2, and 3.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, I love English. What about this last one? Boys.
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 It's a 1. Is it? No.
Boys. I'm going to go with 2 for the Z sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Boys.
Z. Boys. Yeah, you're right. It's a Z sound. Oh, very good.
Oh, wow. So let me go ahead and stop screen sharing here. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, brilliant.
Someone who loves English grammar, and pronunciation isn't something that I normally do, and I know Ken has asked for it multiple times. So I'm glad that he could take part in today's class. That was very good.
So you have to practice now, and thank God it's not a tongue twister today anyway, so that's good. Damn, you should have done one with S's. A tongue twister with S's. I'm sure there are some.
Sally sells seashells by the seashore, but that's all the S sound, so that one's relatively easy. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. That was a Z, but those are literally Z's. So we'll do tongue twisters in the future. Don't worry about that, Thomas.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure. Well, we've got all the lessons now up till the end of January. There's only a couple that I haven't done in German yet, but all the Intanga ones are up there till I think the 30th of January or something like that. So yeah, I think, but whatever. So hopefully, yeah, that'll be good.
Perfect. Well, let me just take a look at my next class here. Everybody know. Next Wednesday is pronouns, grammar. It's for lower level, but it's still lower level, but it's still good to practice for everybody else. And oh yeah, Monday is a conversation, how to be successful. So we'll talk about different ways in which we can be successful in life.
Brilliant. That's the one I'll join. I'll try my best. Actually, Monday is always a bit busy for us now, so it's probably not likely. But that was good today. I enjoyed it.
I had a lot of fun too, so I'll definitely work in some more pronunciation classes up.
I'll try to join them as much as I can.
Perfect. You can always improve, Thomas. Wonderful. You two have a great day, great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.
Too.
Thank
bye
you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.